Yes, Hogwarts Legacy allows you to really tap into dark and evil magic, as a new gameplay showcase gave us a look at some of the game's most devastating spells, including the infamous Killing Curse. We also got an in-depth look at broom flying and open world traversal, more combat details, and a ton of new info on the Room of Requirement, which seems to be a lot more important than we first thought. Plus, there is an update on the game's release date for certain platforms, so let's go over all the latest news in this video. If you're excited for Hogwarts Legacy, then leaving a like would really help us out. Subscribe for way more videos on the game, and let's go. By the way, we are doing a giveaway for the digital deluxe edition of the game. If you want to enter, check the link in the pinned comment and make sure you are a subscriber of the channel before entering. Good luck. So one of the highlights of that new gameplay showcase was the Dark Arts Battle Arena. While there will be 2 accessible battle arenas for all players in the game, which can also give you new cosmetics for your character if you complete them, this Dark Arts Arena is exclusive for people that get the deluxe edition or buy it separately. But the unique thing about the Dark Arts Arena is that your character comes preloaded with access to all 3 of the Unforgivable curses, so Crucio, Imperio, and Avada Kedavra. So you can try them out here before actually choosing to go down the path of the dark arts in the main game, because you will be able to obtain them there too. And I have to say that looking at the spells in action, that is actually a very tempting option. Now let's start with the big question you probably have. Does casting Avada Kedavra on an enemy instantly kill them? And the answer from the looks of it is actually yes. We can see it being used a lot on regular enemies, but even a larger troll that can usually tank a lot of damage can be instantly killed by casting the Killing Curse on it. Now this of course makes the spell incredibly powerful, part of which is offset due to a very long 1-minute cooldown on it, but one of the developers also mentioned a specific type of potion called a focus potion that can be used to lower the cooldown on all of your spells. Which also means you are able to cast Crucio and Imperio more often, and both of those look really useful too. Crucio effectively disables an enemy by putting them in pure agony so they stand completely frozen and take damage over time. Imperio, on the other hand, turns an enemy against their comrades and effectively makes them your ally for the duration. Not sure if that works on any target, but I imagine making a powerful wizard or dangerous creature your ally can really turn the tide of a battle. Also interesting to note is the fact that these spells leave this cross-shaped curse mark on your enemies. Game director Alan Chu explained that this is part of the game's talent system, which is a way where you can modify spells to better fit your playstyle. Cursed enemies will have their fate bound, which in-game translates to the fact that if one takes damage, the other does too. So that means that if you curse multiple targets and then cast Avada Kedavra on one of them, all of them will die instantly. I'm personally just getting super curious about this talent system because we've seen very little of it, but it sounds really interesting. And I'm also very intrigued how these spells will play into the story of the game too. The developers are making it sound like it's a choice every time they mention it, but even if you do decide to go for them, can you still go to class? I mean, casting one of the Unforgivable curses is a crime in the wizarding world, it's kind of in the name, and we can see them being used pretty freely in the combat arena, so does that mean we can just go to school as a wanted criminal? It would be a bit strange, but I do love the fact that Avalanche decided to include these iconic spells, and I am very excited to use them. And there are more amazing combat details which I'll get into in a bit, but first let's go over some info on my most hyped feature for the game, broom flying. It looks amazing, and it of course helps that the environments that you'll be flying through look gorgeous as well, but there is actually some mechanical depth to it that I wasn't expecting. You see the player fly low to the ground a lot of the time, and that is because you can freely accelerate if you stick to a low altitude. If you try to fly higher, speeding up will deplete this meter on the bottom right of the screen, so now you can't fly at top speed all of the time. However, there is actually a merchant in Hogsmeade that sells brooms, and if you help him out, you can buy upgrades from him that allow you to maintain speed even at higher altitudes. You can also buy cosmetic parts for your broom from him, which I guess means mount customization is part of the game, so that is definitely a win in my book. But brooms are of course not the only way you can traverse the surrounding area of Hogwarts, as not much later we see the player summon a hippogriff out of a bag to run and fly around the countryside. The one shown in particular here is the Onyx Hippogriff, which is a pre-order bonus, but we know there's other types you can use as a mount thanks to earlier footage. The same is not true for the deluxe edition Thestral, which we can also see riding through the Forbidden Forest a bit later, as that one can only be unlocked by outright buying it. Now back to the Hippogriff though. Because it is part horse, it functions functions as both a land and flying mount, so you are able to run around and then take off whenever you like. While the devs did confirm that the broom is quicker than the hippogriff, I still think I'll spend a lot of time flying around on this creature too. Especially the later shots we see where the season is changed to winter just encapsulate that Harry Potter magic that I love so much, and it's not something that we've had in a game yet. And by the way, the switch in season was done with some developer magic, as in the game itself the seasons will change as you progress throughout the story. But there is a lot more to do and see besides pretty vistas, like this magical street musician that you can give a tip if you like his performance, because a lot of activities in the open world seem to reward you with some pretty useful upgrades. They show up on your minimap, and while we don't know exactly what all the icons mean yet, the devs have mentioned puzzles left behind by ancient wizards that can expand your inventory space, or old ruins that can be explored to expand your ancient magic abilities, which is now something we also know a lot more about thanks to the new combat gameplay. Basically, next to your spells you have a couple of different abilities that are tied to your ancient magic. The ability to throw objects at an enemy, indicated here by the R1 button over the object, is one of them, but this does not actually seem to drain anything from your ancient magic meter at the bottom right. What does require a charge from the meter are these amazing finishing moves though, which is what the R1 and L1 button prompt is for. This will appear above an enemy, signaling you can finish them off instantly, kind of like the instant takedowns from the Arkham or Shadow of Mordor games. The attack or animation you perform is different for each enemy though, and even for similar enemies we can already see different finishers, like this guy just being evaporated or this poor man being turned into a chicken. The way you charge your meter is mainly by keeping your spell combo going, but there is a way you can make it fill up even quicker. You might have seen those blue sparks of energy drop from enemies in the gameplay, and by picking those up you will also add extra energy to your ancient magic meter. These sparks will only start dropping if you get a combo going, and you have to get pretty close to them to pick them up, which I actually think is really clever. One of my main concerns for combat in the game was that it would feel too stationary, but this is a great incentive for players to move around, as it means you have access to those powerful finishing moves more often. But that is just one of the playstyles you can adapt, as you can also just go in a completely different direction and let an army of sentient plants do the work for you. We only saw the venomous tentacula in action in the battle arena, which functions as a stationary turret, but there are a lot of plants and potions you can prepare and bring to battle. All of this of course happens in the Room of Requirement, which is your home base of sorts where you do most of your crafting. A lot of interesting new features were revealed here, and I was not expecting so many of them to work off one another in meaningful ways. To give you an example, one of the crafting stations we got a look at was the Loom, where you can upgrade and customize your gear with different traits. And while in a previous build it looked like the Loom was also the place where you could apply transmog to your items, that's not the case anymore. That feature has been moved to the gear screen according to the devs, which we still haven't seen in action by the way, but that does mean you can change the appearance of your gear at any given moment. But at the Loom, if you want to upgrade a piece of gear, you need materials from magical creatures. As you can see on the tooltip here, these creatures need to be rescued first from beast dens or be encountered in quests. Then they will appear in your vivarium, which is also part of the Room of Requirement, where you'll have to take good care of them so they will give you the materials you need. If you want to put traits on your gear, you can find new recipes in bandit camps out in the open world, and some of the gear you bring back from your travels will need to be identified first at the identification station, which is also part of the Room of Requirement. So it sure sounds like we'll be coming back here a lot, and luckily you're able to customize the space to really make it your own. You can change pretty much anything from wall decorations to the entire roof. Stuff can be made smaller or bigger so you can have tiny chairs, or you can change the color of your crafting station if you think they look a bit boring. There is a limit to how many items you can place in a room, but other than that your creativity is the limit. Even the vivarium where you keep your magical creatures can be changed up as much as you like, and there are even different types of environments you can unlock for this magical structure to change it to a more swampy look, for example. But there are some very useful structures you can build too, like a feeder that helps you in taking care of your animals. So while you can manually feed all the creatures you freed, you can also build one of these to take care of that for you. And the material you need to craft all of these items, moonstone, is actually something you find in the world, so that's another way that these systems interact. I actually think it's fun that all activities seem to link to each other, as it makes everything feel meaningful, but there is of course the risk that you have to spend a lot of time on things that you don't like because you need the rewards for something else. Whether or not they got that right is of course something we'll only discover after playing the game, which is of course February 10th on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles. The game has gone gold on those platforms, so no more delays, but they did announce that the PS4 and Xbox One players will sadly have to wait until the 4th of April to play the game. The Switch version releases even later on July 25th. And I get that it's always disappointing if you have to wait for a game even longer, but I think we all remember what happened to the previous gen versions of Cyberpunk. If a tactic like this can help avoid problems like that, I personally don't mind it that much, and the game is looking better with each showing, so I really think it will be worth the wait. When we learn more, we will of course let you know here, so subscribe to miss nothing, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you want, you can watch our breakdown of the previous gameplay showcase by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.